Slowly, some aliens stood as well. Felthara rose, though her feathers still trembled. A few others, the council did not meet for 3 days. During that time, the station became a place of intense debate. Everywhere Haywan went, she heard arguments. Some beings insisted the old records must be fake. Others demanded answers from their own governments about their genetic history. A few called for the entire galactic system to be reformed. Haywan spent those days with the other humans, preparing for whatever came next. They had exposed a truth that many wanted to ignore. Now they had to live with the consequences. On the morning of the 4th day, Velthara came to find Haywan in the human quarters. The avian looked tired, her golden eyes dimmed. "May I speak with you?" Velthara asked. "Of course," Haywan replied, leading her to a quiet corner. Velthara settled onto a perch designed for her species. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she spoke softly. "I have been thinking about my ancestors, wondering what they were like before the modification. Were they fierce? Did they hunt with joy? I have tried to imagine it, but I cannot. That part of me is gone. Does that make you sad?" Haywan asked gently. "I do not know what I feel," Velthara admitted. "Part of me is angry that the choice was taken from them. But another part is grateful. I cannot imagine wanting to kill another creature for food. The thought fills me with horror. If my ancestors felt differently, then I am not truly them anymore. I am something new." "That is not a bad thing," Haywan said. "Evolution, whether natural or artificial, creates something new. The question is whether that new thing has the right to force others to become like it." Velthara met her eyes. "No, it does not. I have come to tell you that I will speak for you in the council. I will argue that humans should be accepted as they are." Haywan felt a wave of gratitude. "Thank you. That means more than you know." "I do not ask you to thank me," Velthara said. "I ask you to understand that this is difficult for me. When I see you eat meat, I still feel disgust. I still struggle with it. But I am choosing to recognize that my feelings are mine to manage, not yours to fix. That is all we ask," Haywan said. "We do not need you to approve. We just need you to let us exist." Similar conversations were happening across the station. Crethan had his own crisis of identity. He spent hours in the archives reading about his species' history. What he found disturbed him deeply. His ancestors had been powerful hunters, apex predators who ruled their world. The genetic modifications had taken decades and had not been entirely voluntary. Many of his people had resisted and been removed from the gene pool. He came to find Taman in the engineering bay. "I owe you an apology," Crethan said stiffly. Taman looked up from his work in surprise. "For what?" "For judging you without understanding. I called you a predator as if it were an insult. But my ancestors were predators too. Magnificent ones, according to the records. I have no right to condemn you for being what you naturally are when I am only what I am because someone forced my ancestors to change." Taman set down his tools. "You do not need to apologize. You reacted based on what you believed was true. Now you know differently. That is enough, is it?" Crethan asked. "I helped create an environment where you had to hide a fundamental part of yourself. Where you could not even eat your lunch without causing a crisis." "Yes, it was hard," Taman acknowledged. "But I understand why. You genuinely believed that eating meat was wrong. You were not being cruel on purpose. You were following your values. Now we have to find a way to live together despite our different values." Crethan sat down heavily. "I do not know if I can watch you eat meat. Even knowing what I know now, it disturbs me." "Then do not watch," Taman said simply. "I will eat in private. I do not need to make you uncomfortable, but I will not pretend to be something I am not." "That seems fair," Crethan said. Throughout the station, these small reconciliations were taking place. Not everyone was convinced. Some beings remained horrified by humanity. A group of hardliners called for immediate expulsion, regardless of the historical revelations. They argued that wrong was wrong, regardless of who did it first. But others were changing their minds. Young aliens who had grown up believing the consciousness covenant was natural law now questioned everything they had been taught. Some even began to wonder if they should reverse the modifications, though that would take generations of genetic engineering. On the 7th day, the council reconvened. This time the atmosphere was different. There was less certainty, more humility. Kixtal opened the proceedings with a confession. "I have spent these days reviewing my own species' history. I learned that we too were modified. My ancestors were omnivores. They ate both plants and small creatures. When the Great Purification came, they chose to change, but it was not a free choice. The dominant powers of that era made it clear that refusing meant isolation or worse. My ancestors chose survival over authenticity. I cannot judge them for that choice. But I can acknowledge that what they created was not natural law. It was a response to pressure. He looked around the council and then at the assembled crowd. We have been arrogant. We believed our way was the only way for intelligent life to develop. We were wrong. Humanity proves that intelligence and ethics can exist alongside a carnivorous diet. They are not perfect, but neither are we. Our history is filled with violence despite our modified nature. We too have wars, crimes, and cruelty. Clearly, changing our diet did not make us morally superior. The Insect Council member spoke next. I still find human dietary practices disturbing. I do not think I will ever be comfortable with it. But I have reviewed the data. Humans have been peaceful members of the galactic community. They have not attacked other species. They have honored their treaties. Their personal eating habits, however unpleasant to us, do not make them dangerous. One by one, the council members spoke. Most expressed similar thoughts. They could not change their feelings, but they could change their policies. Finally, Kixtel called for a vote. The question before us is this: should humanity be granted full membership in the galactic community without restriction on their dietary practices? The vote was not unanimous. 3 council members voted against, but the majority voted yes. Kixtel's shell turned a bright clear blue. The council has decided. Humans will be granted full membership with the following provisions. First, humans agree to be respectful of others' feelings by not eating meat in shared public spaces. Second, the galactic community agrees to provide private dining areas where humans can eat as they wish. Third, both parties agree to ongoing cultural education so that understanding can grow. And fourth, the historical records of the Great Purification will be made public and taught throughout the galaxy. The hall erupted in applause and some protests, but the decision was made. Heywan felt tears in her eyes. Beside her, Taemin was grinning. Sora and Jiwoo embraced. Minho simply nodded, looking satisfied. After the formal proceedings ended, a young alien approached the human group. She was a student from a nearby system studying xenobiology. I want to learn about Earth, she said shyly. About your evolution and your cultures. I want to understand, not just tolerate. We would be happy to teach you, Sora said warmly. More beings approached with similar requests. The crisis had sparked curiosity. People wanted to know about this species that challenged everything they thought they knew. Days later, Taemin was back in the engineering bay, working on a power coupling. It was routine work, the kind he enjoyed. At lunchtime, he took out his container. Today it held kimchi and rice, no meat. He had made a choice to be considerate of his coworkers. But tomorrow he might bring bulgogi again. And if he did, he would eat it in the private dining area that had been created for humans. He would not hide, but he would be respectful. Krathen approached him during the break. How is the power system? The supervisor asked. Running smoothly, Taemin replied. No problems today. Good, good. Krathen hesitated, then continued. I wanted to tell you something. I have been reading about Earth's cuisine. The way you prepare food is very complex. You have thousands of recipes, techniques passed down through generations. It is quite fascinating, Taemin smiled. Would you like to try some human food sometime? We have many vegetarian dishes. I would like that, Krathen said. Perhaps you could teach me about your culture through food. Just not the meat dishes. Deal, Taemin agreed. In her office, Haiwan was writing a report about the entire incident. It would be sent back to Earth, to the human government, and to cultural institutes. They needed to know what had happened and what it meant for humanity's future in the galaxy. She wrote about the misunderstanding, the crisis, and the resolution. But mostly she wrote about what they had learned. The galaxy was not perfect. It had a dark history that it had tried to forget, but it was capable of change. It was capable of admitting mistakes and choosing a better path. Humanity had forced that change simply by being themselves, by refusing to pretend to be something they were not, by standing up for their right to exist as they were. It was not complete acceptance yet. There would still be difficulties, misunderstandings, and prejudice. But it was a beginning. Heywan finished her report and sent it off. Then she looked out the window of her office at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there were. The council deliberated for 2 days. During that time, the station felt different. Conversations in the corridors stopped when humans walked by. Some aliens avoided the human sections entirely. Others approached with questions, their curiosity overcoming their discomfort. HFY used the time to dig deeper into the archives. She had opened a door, and now she needed to see what lay behind it. A human data analyst named Min-Ho joined her effort. He was young but brilliant with computers. Together, they searched for any information about the genetic modification programs from 12,000 cycles ago. The archives were vast and poorly organized. Files had been compressed, transferred, and reformatted countless times over the millennia. Some information had been lost. Other information had been deliberately hidden. "Look at this," Min-Ho said, pointing to a section of corrupted data. "These files have been encrypted with old military-grade security. Why would historical records need that level of protection?" "Because someone did not want them found," HFY replied. "They worked through the night, breaking through layers of security." Min-Ho was careful to avoid triggering any alarms. When they finally accessed the files, what they found was shocking. The documents described a movement called the Great Purification. It began as a philosophical idea among the most advanced civilizations of that era. A group of thinkers argued that true sapience required transcending base instincts. They believed that eating other creatures was a primitive behavior that held intelligent species back from achieving enlightenment. At first, the movement was voluntary. Species that agreed modified their own genetics to remove carnivorous and omnivorous traits. They altered their digestive systems, changed their taste receptors, and even adjusted their brain chemistry to feel disgust at the thought of eating meat. But then the movement became political. Civilizations that refused to modify themselves were labeled as dangerous. Trade agreements included clauses requiring genetic modification. Systems that maintained traditional diets were blockaded. In some cases, military force was used. The files contained records of entire species being forced to change or face extinction. Some complied. Some fled to the edges of known space. A few fought back and were destroyed. "This is not evolution," Min-Ho whispered, staring at the screen. "This is genocide. Cultural genocide at minimum." HFY felt sick, and then they rewrote history. They made it seem like the Consciousness Covenant was a natural law. They erased evidence of what they had done. "Not all of it," Min-Ho said. "These files survived. Someone kept them, maybe as a warning or maybe as proof, and now we have them." "The question is what we do with them," HFY said. Before they could discuss it further, an announcement came over the station's speakers. "All personnel to the main assembly hall. The council has reached a decision." HFY and Min-Ho looked at each other. They had evidence that could change everything. But was it the right time to reveal it? "We bring it," HFY decided. "If the council rules against us, we show them why they are wrong." The assembly hall was even more crowded than before. Word had spread throughout the station and beyond. Beings from nearby systems had traveled to witness the verdict. The fate of humanity's place in the galaxy would be decided today. The council entered solemnly. Kixtal's shell was a deep purple, a color HFY had not seen before. She could not tell if it was a good sign or bad. "We have deliberated extensively," Kixtal began. "This situation is unprecedented. Never before has a species joined the galactic community without conforming to the Consciousness Covenant. The question before us is whether an exception can be made." He paused, looking around the vast hall. "The council is divided. Some members believe humans are too dangerous to remain among us. They argue that predatory instincts cannot be fully suppressed by civilization. They fear that humans might turn those instincts toward other sapient species." HFY felt her heart sink. "Other council members argue differently," Kixtal continued. "They point to humanity's record since first contact. Humans have been peaceful, cooperative, and respectful. They have contributed valuable knowledge and skills. Their dietary habits, while disturbing to us, have not translated into violence toward other species." A slight hope flickered in HFY's chest. "After much debate, we have decided on a probationary period. Humans may remain in the galactic community, but under observation, you will be required to follow additional protocols. Any human who eats meat must do so in private, away from public spaces. You must attend educational sessions about the Consciousness Covenant, and you must submit to regular psychological evaluations to ensure you pose no threat. The hall erupted in voices. Some beings cheered. Others protested loudly. The humans sat in stunned silence. Taemin leaned toward Haewon. Is this good or bad? It is not expulsion, Haewon said. But it is not acceptance either. They are treating us like children who need supervision. Crathen stood from his seat on the council. I must object. This decision is too lenient. We are compromising our values to accommodate a species that refuses to change. With respect, said a new voice. An elderly being shuffled forward from the back of the hall. He was ancient, his body bent with age. He wore robes that marked him as an archivist. I believe the council should hear additional information before finalizing this decision. Kixtal's shell shifted to a darker shade. Archivist Kixvan, you have been silent on this matter. Why speak now? Because I am old enough to remember things that others have forgotten, the archivist said. His voice was thin but clear. I have served in the archives for 700 cycles. I know where certain files are kept and why. He looked directly at Haewon and Minho. These young humans have been searching the archives. They have found records that were meant to remain hidden, records of the Great Purification. A shocked silence fell over the hall. I knew this day would come eventually, the archivist continued, when a species appeared that had not been modified, when someone would ask the difficult questions. I have kept those records safe, waiting for the right moment. Perhaps this is that moment. Kixtal's shell flashed through several colors rapidly. Archivist, what are you saying? I am saying that the consciousness covenant is built on a lie. The council has been judging humanity by a standard that was artificially created. Most species in this hall have forgotten that their ancestors ate meat. They have forgotten that they were forced to change. Haewon stood. We found the files. We were going to share them, but we were not sure how. Share them now, the archivist said. Let everyone see the truth. Minho activated the holographic displays throughout the hall. The ancient files appeared for all to see. Records of the Great Purification scrolled past. Documents describing forced genetic modifications. Treaties requiring dietary changes as a condition of membership in the old Galactic Union. Military reports of civilizations that resisted and were destroyed. The hall descended into chaos. This cannot be true, someone shouted. Our ancestors would not do this, cried another. But the evidence was undeniable. Genetic records showed markers of artificial modification in nearly every species present. Historical population data revealed the sudden disappearance of carnivorous civilizations. Archaeological findings that had been dismissed or ignored suddenly made sense in this new context. Velthara stood, her feathers trembling. My people. We were modified? The archivist nodded sadly. Your ancestors were raptors, hunters of great skill. They were among the first to be modified, actually. They believed it was the path to enlightenment, but it was a choice they made under pressure, not freely. Crathen's scales had gone pale. And my people? Carnivorous reptiles, apex predators of your homeworld. The modification was more extensive for your species. It required several generations to complete. The revelations continued. Species after species learned the truth about their ancestors. Some reacted with anger, others with sorrow. A few seemed almost relieved, as if something they had always felt but could not name had finally been explained. Kixtal struck the floor with his staff, demanding order. His shell cycled through colors so quickly it became almost white. If this is true, he said slowly, then we have been living a lie for thousands of cycles. We have enforced a philosophy based on false premises. We have judged others by standards we ourselves only meet through artificial means. Not just judged, Haewon said, finding her courage. According to these records, you destroyed civilizations that refused to change. You committed atrocities in the name of your consciousness covenant, and then you erased the evidence and pretended it never happened. Our ancestors did this, Kixtal corrected. We are not responsible for their actions. But you are responsible for what you do now, Taemin said, standing beside Haewon. You can choose to repeat their mistakes by forcing us to hide who we are, or you can choose something different. You can accept that there are many ways to be intelligent and ethical. The hall fell silent as everyone considered his words. Sora stood as well. We are not asking you to start eating meat again. We are not asking you to change at all. We are only asking that you let us be ourselves. Judge us by our actions, not by your constructed ideals. Jiwoo joined them. Then Minho, Soon all the humans in the hall were standing together. The inquiry chamber was larger than HFY expected. It could hold hundreds of beings, and today it was nearly full. Representatives from dozens of species had come to witness the proceedings. Some were curious. Others were angry. A few looked frightened. The council sat at a raised platform at the front of the room. Kickstall presided in the center, his crystalline shell now a neutral gray color. Velthara and Crathen sat among the other council members. To HFY's surprise, Velthara looked sad rather than angry. HFY stood at a podium facing the council. Behind her sat Sora, Taemin, and Jiwoo. They had prepared for 3 days straight. Now it was time to present their case. "You may begin," Kickstall said. HFY activated a holographic display. Images of Earth appeared, rotating slowly. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. "Earth is a world of tremendous diversity," she began. "Millions of species exist there, from tiny bacteria to massive whales. Humans are just one species among many. We evolved over millions of years, shaped by our environment like every other creature." The image changed to show early human ancestors, ape-like beings walking upright through grasslands. Our ancestors were omnivores. They ate fruits, nuts, roots, and sometimes meat. About 2 million years ago, they began hunting more regularly. This changed us. The protein from meat helped our brains grow larger. Hunting required cooperation, planning, and communication. These pressures pushed us toward greater intelligence. A council member interrupted. "So you are saying that violence made you intelligent?" "I am saying that our intelligence emerged from our complete evolutionary context," HFY replied carefully. "Hunting was part of that. But so was gathering plants, caring for our young, forming social bonds, and creating tools. We are the sum of all these things." Sora stood and approached the podium. HFY stepped aside to let the scientists speak. "Let me address the biology directly," Sora said. Her voice was clear and confident. "Humans have teeth designed for both cutting meat and grinding plants. Our digestive system can process both types of food. We cannot synthesize certain nutrients on our own. We must obtain them from food. Some of these nutrients are most easily found in meat." The hologram showed a comparison of human teeth and digestive systems with those of herbivores and carnivores. "We are true omnivores." Sora continued. "This is not a choice or a moral failing. It is our biological reality. Yes, modern humans can survive on plant-based diets if they are careful about nutrition, but for most of our history, meat was an important part of our survival." "Survival is one thing," said the insect council member, "but you have technology now. Why continue these practices?" Sora nodded. "That is a fair question. The answer is complex. Food is not just fuel for humans. It is culture, tradition, comfort, and identity. The meals our parents make for us carry memories. The dishes of our homelands connect us to our ancestors. Change is possible, and many humans are choosing to eat less meat or no meat at all. But asking billions of people to abandon something so fundamental to their culture takes time." Jiwoo stood next. He projected images of various human cultures and their relationships with animals. "I want to show you that humans are not mindless killers," he said. "Many cultures have deep respect for the animals they use for food. Indigenous people of the northern regions thank the spirits of the animals they hunt. Farmers in many places name their livestock and care for them as individuals. Some cultures have strict rules about how animals must be treated and killed to minimize suffering." Images showed ceremonies, prayers, and traditional practices from around the world. "We also have laws protecting animals from cruelty," Jiwoo added. "We punish people who cause unnecessary suffering. We have organizations dedicated to animal welfare. We debate these issues constantly. Some humans believe eating animals is wrong. Others believe it is acceptable if done humanely. We do not all agree, but we are thinking about it. We are trying to be ethical." "Trying is not succeeding," Crathen said harshly. "Ethics requires action, not just thought." "With respect," Jiwoo replied, "we are acting. Every generation of humans treats animals better than the last. We have made progress and continue to do so. Is that not what matters? That we improve?" Kickstall raised a hand for silence. "Let us hear from the individual whose actions sparked this inquiry." Timon stood and walked to the podium. He looked nervous but determined. "I am just an engineer," he began. "I fix power systems. I solve problems. I wanted to come here and do good work. I wanted to help build something bigger than myself. When I opened my lunch that day, I was not trying to offend anyone. I was just eating the food my mother made for me. He paused, gathering his thoughts. You see me as a predator. Maybe I am. My ancestors hunted. They were good at it. But they were also good at many other things. They made art, they told stories. They took care of their sick and elderly. They were complex beings, just as I am complex. Complexity does not excuse cruelty, said the floating jellyfish council member. No, it does not, Taemin agreed. But I ask you to consider this. Is it more cruel to raise an animal for food and give it a quick death? Or is it more cruel to let that animal never exist at all? The cow I ate lived because humans needed cows. It had grass to eat, sun to enjoy, and a herd to be part of. When I ate it, I understood what I was taking. I did not waste it. I was grateful. Grateful? Belthara spoke for the first time. Her voice was strained. How can you be grateful for taking a life? Taemin looked directly at her. Because I understand the weight of it. I know something died so I could live. That awareness makes me more grateful for my life, not less. It makes me want to live well, to honor that sacrifice. The chamber fell quiet. Some beings looked thoughtful. Others looked unmoved. Heywan returned to the podium. I have one more thing to present. During my research, I found something interesting in the Galactic archives. Something about the Consciousness Covenant itself. She activated a new set of files on the holographic display. Ancient texts appeared written in languages that predated most current civilizations. The Consciousness Covenant is not as old as you think, Heywan said carefully. It dates back only 12,000 galactic cycles. Before that, the archives contain references to many species with varied diets. There are mentions of hunting, fishing, and animal husbandry among civilizations that are ancestors to species here today. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. What are you suggesting? Kixtel asked. His shell had turned orange. I am suggesting that your ancestors were like us, Heywan said. They ate meat. They were omnivores or carnivores. Something changed 12,000 cycles ago. The records from that period are incomplete. But there are hints. References to a great philosophical movement. Mentions of genetic modification programs. The Consciousness Covenant was not a natural law. It was a choice your ancestors made. This is absurd, snapped the insect being. We have always been as we are. Have you? Haiwan challenged. When was the last time your species had its genome fully sequenced and compared to ancient samples? The insect being did not answer. Heywan pressed on. I think the Consciousness Covenant was created to justify changes that were already made. Your ancestors modified themselves genetically to remove the desire to eat meat. Then they built a philosophy around it. They convinced themselves it was the natural path of evolution. But it was not natural. It was artificial. Even if this is true, Kixtal said slowly, what does it matter? We are as we are now. Our current values are real, regardless of their origin. It matters, Taemin said, stepping forward. Because you are judging us for being what we naturally are, while you are what you artificially made yourselves to be. You removed part of yourselves and called it progress. We kept all of ourselves and tried to build ethics around it. Which approach is better? The question hung in the air like a challenge. The council members looked at each other. Conversations in various languages filled the chamber. Some beings argued loudly. Others sat in stunned silence. Finally, Kixtal called for order. We will adjourn for deliberation. The council needs time to discuss these revelations. As the chamber emptied, Heywan felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to find Velthara standing there. You have given us much to think about, the avian said quietly. I do not know if I can ever be comfortable with what humans do, but I am beginning to understand that my discomfort is my problem, not yours. It was not acceptance, but it was something. The station commander's office was located at the top of the central tower. Heywan had been there many times for routine meetings, never for an emergency session. She walked quickly through the corridors, her heart pounding. Behind her, Taemin followed with his head down. He felt terrible about causing such chaos. When they entered the office, they found it already full. Representatives from 5 different species sat in a semicircle facing the commander's desk. Velthara stood in the corner, her feathers still puffed with distress. Krethan sat with his arms crossed, his scales dark with what Heywan recognized as anger or fear. The commander was a being called Kixtal, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. His people looked somewhat like upright walking turtles with crystalline shells that changed color with their moods. Right now his shell pulsed with deep red and orange. "Please sit," Kixtal said. His voice was calm but firm. Haywan and Taimin sat in the two chairs facing the semicircle. It felt like being on trial. "Let me be certain I understand the situation," Kixtal began. "Humans consume the flesh of other creatures. Living creatures that you deliberately kill for this purpose. Is this correct?" Haywan nodded slowly. "Yes, Commander. Though many humans choose not to. We have words for this. Vegetarians eat no meat. Vegans eat no animal products at all. But yes, most humans do eat meat." One of the council members, a floating jellyfish-like being, spoke through a translation device. "This is impossible. The Consciousness Covenant states clearly that no intelligent species can bear to consume other complex life. It goes against the fundamental nature of sapience." "What is this Consciousness Covenant?" Taman asked quietly. Crethan turned to face him. "It is the foundation of galactic civilization. When a species becomes intelligent enough for space travel, they naturally develop empathy for other living things. They cannot stomach the idea of causing suffering to obtain food. This is universal. Or we thought it was." Haywan leaned forward. "But nobody asked us about this during first contact. Your survey team studied our planet. They must have seen our farms." "We saw your agriculture," Belthara said softly. "Fields of grain, orchards, gardens. We saw animals too. We assumed they were companions or served some ecological purpose. The idea that you were raising them for slaughter never occurred to us. It seemed as impossible as you building spaceships by eating rocks." Another council member spoke. This one resembled a large insect with iridescent wings. "We must determine if humans are dangerous. If they are predators by nature." "We are not dangerous," Taman said, finding his voice. "Yes, we evolved as hunters. Yes, we eat meat. But we also have laws, ethics, and morality. We do not hunt each other. We have built civilizations based on cooperation. But you kill creatures for food," the insect being said. "Creatures that feel pain. Creatures that want to live." Haywan took a deep breath. "May I speak plainly?" Kixtal gestured for her to continue. "You are judging us by standards we never knew existed. Earth's evolutionary path is different from yours. We are omnivores. Our brains grew large partly because our ancestors ate meat. The proteins helped fuel brain development. We did not choose this. It is what we are. Nature is not an excuse," said the floating jellyfish. "You have technology now. You could synthesize nutrients. You could choose not to kill." "Many of us do choose that," Haywan replied. "But many others see it differently. We have relationships with the animals we raise. Some farmers treat their livestock well, give them good lives, and thank them when the time comes. It is complicated." Crethan made a sharp sound. "Complicated? You speak of gratitude while ending a life?" Taman spoke up again. "Yes, because we understand what we are taking. Some cultures on Earth have ceremonies to honor the animals. Some people pray before meals. We know these creatures died so we could eat. We do not take it lightly." "I cannot comprehend this," Belthara said, shaking her head. "How can intelligence and such brutality exist together?" "Is it more brutal than pretending it does not happen?" Taman asked. "Plants are alive too. They grow. They respond to their environment. Some even communicate in ways. Where do you draw the line?" The room fell silent for a moment. The insect being clicked its mandibles. "Plants do not have central nervous systems. They do not feel pain as animals do. This is a false comparison." "Maybe to you," Haywan said carefully. "But my point is that different species will have different perspectives. You cannot expect everyone in the galaxy to think exactly as you do." Kixtal's shell shifted to a cooler blue color. "This is true. However, the Consciousness Covenant has kept peace for thousands of years. It is a shared value that binds us together. If humans do not share this value, how can we trust them in our stations, our worlds, our communities?" Haywan felt a chill run down her spine. They were talking about expelling humanity from the galactic community. After years of working toward acceptance, it could all end because of a lunchbox. "Give us a chance to explain ourselves," she said. "Bring in our scientists. Let us show you that we are more than just our diet. Judge us by our actions, not by your assumptions." The council members looked at each other. Silent communication seemed to pass between them. Finally, Kixtal spoke. "Very well. We will hold a formal inquiry. You will have 1 week to present your case. We will hear from human experts about your species' history, biology, and ethics. Then the council will vote on whether humans can remain in the galactic community, or if you must return to your home system." And if we are expelled? Taemin asked. Then Earth will be quarantined. No trade, no communication, no travel. You will be alone again until such time as you evolve past your predatory nature. The weight of those words pressed down on everyone in the room. Haewon stood. We will prepare our testimony. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. As they left the commander's office, Taemin grabbed Haewon's arm. I am so sorry. I did not know. I just wanted to eat my lunch. Haewon managed a weak smile. I know this is not your fault. It is a failure of communication from the very beginning. But now we have to fix it. They walked together back to the human quarters. News had already spread. Other human workers gathered in the common area, their faces worried. Is it true? Asked a young woman named Sora. She was a scientist studying alien biology. Are they really considering sending us home? Yes, Haewon said. We have 1 week to convince them we are not monsters. Jiwoo stepped forward. What do you need us to do? Haewon thought for a moment. We need to present the truth, all of it. Our history, our evolution, our relationship with food and with other species. Sora, I need you to prepare a scientific presentation. Jiwoo, gather cultural information about how different human societies view animals. Taemin, you will tell your story. Show them you are a good person who just happens to eat meat. What about you? Sora asked. I am going to dig into their history, Haewon said quietly. Something about this consciousness covenant bothers me. It seems too absolute, too perfect. I want to know where it came from. Over the next few days, the human section of the station became a research center. Sora compiled data about human evolution. She created charts showing how early humans developed. She gathered information about brain size, tool use, and the role of protein in human development. Jiwoo collected stories from Earth. He found examples of indigenous people who honored the animals they hunted. He found modern farmers who raised livestock humanely. He also found examples of humans who chose vegetarian or vegan lifestyles and were respected for that choice. Taemin practiced his testimony. He talked about his family, his work, his dreams. He wanted the council to see him as an individual, not just as a member of a predatory species. And Haewon dug into the galactic archives, searching for the origins of the consciousness covenant. What she found would change everything. The massive station hung in the darkness of space like a jewel made of metal and light. Inside, thousands of beings from across the galaxy worked together in harmony. They came in all shapes and sizes. Some had wings, others had scales, and a few glowed softly in the dim corridors. But they all shared one thing in common. They all believed that intelligent life did not eat meat. Taemin stepped off the transport ship and looked around the docking bay. This would be his home for the next 6 months. He was an engineer, assigned to maintain the power systems on the station. His bag hung heavy on his shoulder, filled with tools and personal items. Among those items were several containers of food from Earth. The station provided meals, but Taemin had heard the food was bland. He wanted a taste of home. A tall alien with blue feathers and golden eyes approached him. Her name was Velthera, and she managed the station's dining facilities. She welcomed Taemin with a slight bow, which he returned. Welcome to Assembly Station, she said in perfect human language. I trust your journey was comfortable. It was long, but I made it, Taemin replied with a tired smile. I'm ready to start work. Velthara walked with him through the winding corridors. She explained the station's layout and daily routines. The cafeteria opened 3 times a day. Recreation areas were available on the lower levels. Medical facilities stood ready for any species' needs. Everything seemed efficient and welcoming. You will find our food quite nutritious, Velthera said as they passed the cafeteria entrance. We accommodate all species' dietary requirements. Plants, fungi, synthesized proteins. Whatever you need, Taemin nodded politely. He had no intention of complaining about the food. He had brought his own anyway. In another part of the station, Haewon sat in her office reviewing diplomatic reports. She had been on the station for 3 years now, serving as a cultural liaison between humans and the galaxy. In that time, she had learned many things about galactic society. One of the most important lessons was what not to talk about. During her first week, Haewon had attended a dinner with several alien diplomats. The conversation had turned to Earth's agriculture. The aliens were fascinated by the diversity of crops humans grew. Rice, wheat, corn, vegetables of endless varieties. They asked about farming techniques and harvest seasons. Not once did they ask about animals. Haewon found this strange at first. Surely they knew about livestock. But as weeks turned to months, she realized the truth. They did not know. They did not ask because the thought never occurred to them. In their minds, intelligent beings simply did not eat other creatures. She had checked the first contact records. The alien survey team had scanned Earth's surface and found vast fields of grain, orchards full of fruit, and gardens bursting with vegetables. They had seen cows and pigs and chickens, but they assumed these were kept as companions or for some other purpose. The idea that humans raised animals specifically to kill and eat them never entered their minds. HFY had made a choice then. She would not bring it up. She ate only plant-based meals in public. She avoided conversations about Earth's cuisine. It seemed easier than trying to explain something that might horrify her colleagues. But now a new group of human workers had arrived. Young people who had never lived off Earth for long. People who might not understand the delicate situation. HFY picked up her communicator and sent a message to all new human arrivals. Welcome to the station. Please see me before your first meal in the cafeteria. Important cultural briefing required. She hoped they would all read it in time. Taimin did not read it in time. After settling into his small quarters, he reported to the engineering bay. The work was straightforward. Check power couplings, monitor energy flow, respond to maintenance requests. His supervisor was a reptilian creature named Krathen, who spoke in slow, measured tones and seemed impressed by Taimin's credentials. Earth's engineers have proven quite capable, Krathen said. We are glad to have you here. The shift passed quickly. Taimin worked alongside two other technicians, neither of them human. They communicated through translation devices and hand signals. By the time the shift ended, Taimin felt exhausted but satisfied. His stomach growled, loudly. First meal period is now open, announced a voice over the station speakers. Taimin grabbed his lunch container from his locker and headed to the cafeteria. He had prepared the meal before leaving Earth. Bulgogi, his mother's recipe. Thin slices of beef marinated in soy sauce, sugar, sesame oil, garlic, and pepper. He had frozen it carefully and brought it in a thermal container. Now it had thawed perfectly and only needed warming. The cafeteria was crowded. Beings of a dozen different species sat at long tables eating from bowls and plates of various designs. The air smelled of unfamiliar spices and growing things. Taimin found the reheating station and warmed his container. The smell of cooking meat began to fill his immediate area. He did not notice the change in atmosphere at first. He was too focused on finding a seat. But as he walked between tables, conversation stopped. Heads turned, eyes followed him. Taimin sat down at an empty table and opened his container. The bulgogi looked perfect. Steam rose from the dark, glistening meat. He picked up his chopsticks and took the first bite. It tasted like home, excuse me. The voice came from his left. Velthara stood there, her golden eyes wide and her feathers slightly puffed. What are you eating? Taimin looked up, confused by her tone. Bulgogi. It's beef. From a cow. My mother made it before I left. The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Velthara's feathers puffed further. Her beak opened slightly. Around them, other aliens had stopped eating entirely. They stared at Taimin and his lunch container. Krathen approached from another table. His scales had changed color slightly, shifting toward a darker shade. Did you say, from a cow? You are eating flesh? Taimin set down his chopsticks. Something was very wrong. Yes, it's meat. Is that a problem? The cafeteria erupted in shocked voices. Some aliens stood up quickly and backed away. Others leaned forward, staring at the container as if it contained poison. A few covered their mouths or equivalent features in horror. But you are intelligent, Velthara whispered. You are sapient. You cannot. You would not. Another human, a technician named Jiwoo, rushed into the cafeteria. He had received HFY's message. He saw Taimin sitting with his bulgogi and understood immediately what had happened. Everyone, please let me explain, Jiwoo said loudly, trying to restore calm. Explain what? Demanded Krathen. Explain why your species practices something we thought impossible? Jiwoo took a deep breath. Humans are omnivores. We eat both plants and meat. Most of us do anyway. We raise animals for food. We have for thousands of years. The cafeteria fell completely silent. Then all voices spoke at once.